Hello, you there, in the dark. I'm gonna read out Satan the Waster 1920 War Trilogy by Violet Page under her pseudonym Vernon Lee. The Ballet of Nations, Part 2, Act 1, starts off with a quote of Dante Gabriel Rossetti. He was a English poet and art painter and one of the founders of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. And the interesting thing is, there are three. It's a trilogy, and every part of the trilogy starts with a quote. The first one was John Milton with, "And out of good still to find means of evil," and the second quote starts, "What is the sorriest thing that enters hell? Not any of the sins." Three dots, silence. Act 1. No place, nowhere. A street widening to a square forms flanking pieces to a building on whose architrave is inscribed in immense letters, "The World, a theatre of varieties, lessee and manager Satan." And in front of the theatre consists almost entirely of a colossal door, now closed, but which, being opened always, the whole interior to be seen from the light flight of steps leading up to it. To the right of the theatre, the house of self-interest with a shiny door plate and knocker, and to the left is a rag and bottle shop, half closed, belonging to Widow Fear. A few adjacent houses forming a flanking semicircle to the theatre, with large door plates inscribed "Truthfulness, Justice, Temperance, Equanimity, etc., whose owners are seen yawning at the windows, and then crossing the square after looking on warily and disappearing by a side door into the theatre. What these sleepy virtues are, languidly watching, is a group of human passions, with hand burrows, busily unloading their instruments and desks, and carrying them up the steps to an unseen stage door in the rear of the theatre. Each of these passions, attired in appropriate allegoric garments, bears his or her name on a silver badge hung round by the neck by a chain. Greed, loyalty, discipline, comradeship, jealousy, egotism, bullying, envy is boredom, and others, some very handsome and with a familiar family resemblance to the sleeping virtues, other hideous and sluttish, or with grotesque attempts to hide their ugliness and mean appearance, or monstrous affection of dignity. When all the instruments and desks have been carried into the theatre, a little body of these passions return and join in carrying up the steps a carved hand railing or balustrade intended to separate the orchestra from the stalls, and bearing in ornamental letters the words "Patriotism, reserved for members of the orchestra." And all this is being done under the impatient superintendence of Ballet Master Deaf, who fuzzes around and occasionally consults his watch. Ballet Master Deaf is seen at first only from the back, a long, lank figure in loose black evening clothes, long tailcoat, with a long pianist head of hair round the bald, skinny patch. There is something extraordinary, angular, and unaccountably uncanny in his figure and movements, but it is only when he turns full round that we become aware that he is a skeleton, and that the grey head of hair surmounts a grinning skull. Then we wonder that we did not notice that his hands and feet, both bare and protruding from over short sleeves and trousers, are skeleton too. Also, a few neutral nations wearing armlets inscribed neutrality look shyly at these proceedings, pretending to be examining the facades of the surrounding houses and the contents of their own pockets, afraid of getting mixed up in the performance, but enormously attracted by it. After this dumb show has gone on a little while, Ballet Master Deaf, showing more and more impatience, a slight earthquake rocks the theatre and adjacent buildings, causing the various personas to stop short in whatever they are doing. And as it rumbles, subsides, the earth yawns at the foot of the theatre steps, and Satan arises majestically, helping the muse of history out of the depths and followed by the classic and unsubstantial chorus of ages to come. The earthquake, and the earth closes after them. The place which with the earthquake has become suddenly dark is lit by the sinister luminescence emanating from Satan's archangelic person, until the whole is suffused with a strange and ominous light, as if of a fog, in which near objects are oddly visible and others shade away into nothingness. The evil passions fall on their knees, the passions who are or are deemed respectable retire hurriedly. Ballet Master Deaf, for the first time turning fully round and revealing his character nature, bows very low, one hand on his white waistcoat. Satan, grasping him by the hand. At last we meet again, dear old Ballet Master Deaf. I need not introduce you to our old friend Cleo, Muse of History, by profession, but may I say it, by preference and true vocation, dramatic critic. She is a great lover of our joint shows and has graciously undertaken a full account of this. I trust our finest one? The Muse, courtesying ceremoniously. I have had the pleasure of meeting you 2 or 3 times before, but one can't expect so busy an artist as Ballet Master Deaf to bear in mind all his main admirers. Deaf, gruffly, no, that indeed he can't, ma'am. There is far too much to do in the world, and a fearful lot of errors to Satan. Come, my lord, time presses, and we shall never get our orchestra together. All these human passions have grown so lackadaisical of late. Satan, all right. Give me the list of the performance, or rather, ... I am sure the Muse will kindly help us in our roll call, but are all the dancing nations in readiness? Oh, for so long, says Deaf. They are already behind the curtain, practicing the steps and settling their headpieces comfortably on their shoulders, which is never easy. They are all right, and so is the audience. The neutral nations have taken their seats. It's the orchestra troubles me, looking rudely over the shoulder of the Muse, who is holding the list handed her ceremoniously by Satan. All these, dabbing his skeleton finger onto it, all these have still to come. Confound them all, for an idle, vaporing, bloodless, fiddle-faddling lot. Mankind has coddled its passion up for late years, or fed them on humanitarian water gruel, till you can recognize the anemic wretches. Satan. Oh, that's quite easily mended. Once the performance is in full swing, dear Ballet Master Deaf, then it's brandy for heroes, eh? Come, I will help you call them. Knocks loudly and repeatedly at the door to the right. Hello, you there? Are you deaf or asleep? The Muse, rising from a packing case on which Satan had politely bid her be seated, and where she had been conning the list of performance and following Satan. Forgive my indiscretion. I want my notes to be as full as possible. Who is it you are calling, my lord? Self-interest, says Satan. A most industrious fellow, but unluckily not much addicted to such artistic pleasure as our shows. It is he whom, on weekdays, plays unremittingly the ground bass of life. Satan knocks still more loudly. Self-interest heard from within. This is a half-holiday. Call to tomorrow. I'm a trade unionist and I can't break the rules. I must have sleep out. I must have my sleep out. Let me see. What was I dreaming about? Yes, to be sure, drowsily the coming reconstruction of society. On a more rational Death, shaking his skeleton fist at the house of self-interest. Confound your insolence! Is that a way to answer Satan and death? But self-interest was always a dull dog, not a spark of divine fire to be struck out of him. Your lordship need not have wasted your time and mine in calling on such a gross modern materialist. Satan, may I point out that you skeletons are just a trifle testy? Don't you see, excellent but short-sighted ballet master Death, that knocking at self-interest's door has brought fear, that over a retiring slut to her window? Hi, widow here, it's only a couple of old friends inviting you to a little entertainment. The muse of writing on her tablet, while what she is describing is seen happening by the spectator. So fear, squalid beyond all other passions, came down, hesitating just a little because she had heard self-interest refuse the invitation, but she was speedily dragged along by her shabby restless twins, superstition, and panic, and the family carried pennies, whistles and foghorns, and a cracked storm at Massacre Bell, genuine medieval, but wrapped in yesterday's Daily Mail and Globe, Washington Post, the New York Times, the Volkskrant, the Trouw. Satan, to the muse. Rather an unpresentable lot, though first-rate performance. I hope we have something really handsome, a few genuine virtues to make up for them, since the nations have grown detestably superfine of late, and some of the other indispensable members of our orchestra aren't very attractive either. Ah, the very thing, goes forward to meet the two newcomers. I am enchanted that you deign to join our amateur band, small but very choice and famous under the name of patriotism, my dear lady Idealism, and my brilliant young prince Adventure. He rustles his wings in ceremonious salutation to the newcomers. Sorry. The muse writes, looking around. And Idealism and Adventure, bride and bridegroom, having come out of their palace of cloud and sunbeams and rainbow, went up into the theatre. Very magnificent they were, and of noblest bearing a little overdressed. Idealism carried a silver trumpet and Adventure a woodland horn. Sin and her crew slink in. There came also Death's mother, or wife, for their family relations are primitive and best not inquired into. Sin, whom all the knowing gods call disease, nor was there any need of calling her. With her came her well-known crew. Rapine, plunder, lust, murder, and torture, fitted out with bulgars, and rattles and other cannibalistic instruments. Satan, standing near the muse on the steps. Here comes hatred, along with self-righteousness. Muse looks up and then writes, pretending not to be acquainted, but nevertheless hurrying together out the tavern of vanity, and thundering between them a huge double bass and a small harmonium, on which, as soon as they have unpacked, self-righteousness most obligingly offered to give hatred his right pitch. Hatred, the stupidest of all passions, yet the most cunning in deceits, brought with him a double bass of many strings, shrill and plaintive gut, rasping steel and growling bronze, and more besides, some strangely comforting in their tone, like a rich cordial, although they hardened men to massacre each other. Death in a hurry. That'll do to begin with, and there are lots of the orchestra, both virtues and vicious passions, and he can be dumped anywhere. See, the head troop the dancers for a few words of encouragement from your lordship. By the way, you mustn't mind if they address you as Lord of Hosts. They are rather ignorant of everything except my especial dances. Satan, oh, I have so many nom de gloire, my dear ballet master. Death, since some of you have your instruments handy, just strike up a bit. You, widow fair, and you, madam idealism, and you, hatred, growl on the deep string not too loud. Just a bar or two, no matter what, you only to make the nations look up and get over that tiresome mauvais honte of theirs. The muse writing the nations had meanwhile arrived by two and twos, on the top step of the theatre, each brilliant and tidy in its ballet dress, which was far better cut and out of handsome stuff, of course, than its everyday broadcloth or rags. And idealism and adventure, hatred and self-righteousness all fell to tuning, for unlike some other members of the orchestra, they were sticklers for correctness and to science and organization. The muse not writing, but speaking as she looks round. Whom have we here? I have never seen either of these before. In all the centuries of my regular attendance of Deaf's ballet, all other human passions are correctly dressed in allegoric fashion, classical or medieval or biblical. But one of these two newcomers might, for all I see, be a clerk in a public office. And as to the lady, if one may call her such, she seems to be wearing a laboratory smock, let alone spectacles, uncompromisingly literal and modern. Deaf jumping down 3 steps with a clatter and flying at the newcomers. Get out of you! Kick them out of the newfangled intruders who want to spoil our fun. Knock them down, trample on them. Don't you see they are aliens, spies in the service of life and progress? Satan with an arch-angelic gesture which paralyzes the uplifted skeleton arms of Death. Your lack of faith disturbs me. Hush, hush. Which is master here, I wonder? Will you never learn manners, you senseless old relic of the Stone Age, with your ramble of instruments fit for an ethnological museum? Turns to the newcomers. Excuse his country manners, dear Madam Science, and dear Counselor Organization. You know the ways of skeletons. Their skulls are inevitably empty. The muse writing. The two newcomers carried newfangled instruments and fell to unpacking them. Science a handy gramophone and Organization a miniature pianola, which with its various rollers. Science, do not mention it, my lord. Que ça comprendre, c'est tout pardonner. So it is part of my professional duty to find excuses for your ballet master's very interesting primitiveness. Organization. It's all as it should be, and of course there is no denying that Science and I are permanently on the staff of Life in Progress, but that firm is working slack at present, so we feel at liberty to take a brief temporary engagement elsewhere. The muse writing. Satan extended both hands in welcome, and Science snatched the opportunity of hurriedly verifying whether or not they are unfurnished. Damn, wat een taal. Satan extended both hands in welcome, and Science snatched the opportunity of hurriedly verifying whether or not they were furnished with claws. Satan, low to Science and Organization. Nothing could be more conducive to the success of our ballet, and I only hope our collaboration may grow permanent. You see, Deaf is getting a bit old for his job and dreadfully prejudiced. Besides, I fear I can't be denied that both of you have done one or two things calculated to rub him the wrong way, and then everything is so dreadfully exaggerated by the daily press. Come here, you peppery old ballet master, and salute. The lady and gentleman places one hand above Dad's head, and playfully twitches his arm and legs like a marionette on a string, for the amusement of science and organization. That's right, now shake hands with the illustrious couple, who will keep up our ballet with their wonderful mechanical instruments, when the rest of our classic band have neither strings nor wind left. And now you had better so far unbent as to tell me how you intend the members of your orchestra to sit once we are all in the theatre, and also give a last instructions to all our excellent and obliging performers. Is all the orchestra here? Let me see the list of them. There, Cleo, this is work of you for you, like Homer's catalogue of ships. Please read out the list of the passions constituting the famous orchestra called patriotism. The muse, reading the list, as he calls each name, its own owner makes obedience to Satan. Greed, yes, here, so, my lord. Loyalty, here, my lord. Chivalry, yeah, here, my lord. Chivalry, here. Comradeship, aye, captain. Reverence, oh, yes, oh, yeah. Discipline, yes. Routine, ennui, egotism, prejudice, pugnacity, bullying. Deaf, those are already in the theatre with their instruments. The muse, justice, here she comes. August, stern daughter of the gods. And I may add, most successfully got up like her own statue, the one of blood-colored porphyry on the pillar in Florence. Satan, exactly, her falconian drawn, ready to decapitate someone she cannot see. And that neat bandage on her eyes make her unaware of what it is she weighs out in her scales. With such unerring muscular precision, I have a genuine regard for justice, Cleo. The muse, idealism and adventure? Satan, they will sit with some of those already inside. Loyalty plays first fiddle, to discipline second. Reverence is the alto and routine the bass of that quartet. Ennui is of course waiting for adventure. The muse, self-righteousness, on the same side as justice, idealism, chivalry, comradeship, prejudice, and pugnacity. But see that self-righteousness be on no account separated from hatred, whom she has to keep up to his pitch. Egotism, bullying, jealousy, and cruelty will sit next to him. The muse, science and organization. Satan, they must be given distinguished seats a little apart. The muse, statecraft. That is our deaf prompter. He is in a little box. Widow fear and superstition and panic. Sin with rapine, murder, lust and torture. Satan, in a corner well to themselves. They are never very presentable and will soon be drunk. Many thanks, Cleo. Deaf fuzzes for a moment in and out, hurrying the performance into their places. Cleo snatches the opportunity of coming close to Satan and saying in a conquestedly imploring whisper, the muse, dearest Lord Satan, in recognition of our ancient friendship and of the tiny share of collaboration with you which you honor me, forgive me if I venture to implore you on my own behalf, and that of my friends, it they so appreciative ages to come. Satan, any request of yours is granted beforehand, Cleo, except the one you are about to make. You want me to abolish the regulation, all this time and change, by which none of the dancing nations and myself can hear the music of the orchestra of passions. Is that it? It is indeed. And dearest Lord Satan, forgive my importunity if I venture to say that ever since always it has been so frightfully tantalizing to look on at the dancing without hearing a sound. I have allowed you to hear heroism, triumphant voice. Let that be sufficient. His music is worth hearing. The muse, don't think me ungrateful or unappreciative. Of course, heroism singing is quite exceptionally good, but it's always the same. Connu archi connu, as the critics say. Besides, it isn't he who really makes the music which is being danced to, and it is very hard upon the muse of history to have to provide little musical motifs, always elevating, of course, but rather tame and palm them off as the real thing to the ages to come. The presence of science and organization led me to hope that some modern contrivance might at last. No, Cleo, and you may not thank your stars this law of mind. A matter admits of no infraction. Believe me, could history know the true strains of which set and keep the nations dancing, the folly and the frenzy which move those limbs, there would soon be an end to your well-deserved popularity. Besides, if more than the faintest echo of my band's playing reaches any ears than those of Satan and his Paul-crazed dances, it is upon the card that is grotesque, alluringly heart-rendering horror might disincline prosperity for all such entertainments. So let us drop the subject, my good news. Now, Ballet Master Death, have you any last instructions? Death bowing obscurely to Satan. Just one more or two, my lord, turns to the performers. Ladies and gentlemen, valiant nations of my corps du ballet, and ever responsive passions of the orchestra so justly admired under the name of patriotism, let me remind you that for the satisfaction of our stage lessee, my lord Satan, and the admiration, I trust, of our enlightened patrons, the muse of history and the ages to come, you are about to take part in the vastest and most new-fashioned spectacle of slaughter and ruin. I have, so far, had the honor of putting on the world stage, although I hope that its attractions may cause it to become only the first and only the least considerable of a long and incessant series of similar glorious exhibitions of what mankind can do under my guidance. As regards instructions, you really require none. The nations have of late years concentrated all of their educational resources on this sole object. And the human passions, however self-engrossed and often as loggerheads, are always eager to accept the unique opportunity for untrampled manifestations of their violence, which is offered by the symphonies of patriotism. Once fairly started, the dancing nations can all be trusted to obey the baton of Ballet Master Death, and as to details, the more each one departs from the regulation steps, the more intelligently will the dancers of the opposite side respond to his improvisations. My ballet, belonging essentially to the category of art called imitative. As to the music, I need scarcely impress upon each of the passions to keep strictly to his or her part, and never be put out of the dissonances and conflicting rhythms produced by the contradictory parts of his fellow performers. Such incoherence conduces to the volume and impressiveness of the patriotic whole, and is rendered acceptable to the most fastidious ear by the perfection of the national unison and the constant reoccurrence of some favorite sentimental theme. The ground plan of our ballet is so simple that no rehearsals have been necessary, and its variety arises out of the ever-increasing number and incompatibility of the allied dancers and their characteristic manners. In obedience to the high ethical taste of modern times, the main motif of our performance is that of each disinterested and indignant nation, seeking only to repel the aggression of its vis-à-vis and to uphold the eternal rules of justice and humanity, and are the subsidiary themes of our outstanding dances, flying to the rescue of the presumable victors, and without some flying to the rescue as to which to join, likewise of main groups overcoming the coyness of unwilling dancers and inveigling them into their terrific mazes. And as the performance proceeds, There may be some graceful virtue attempts to pas de deux between dances of opposite sides, and some very entertaining figures of the sort we dancing masters call Joseph, José, Crozet. One last recommendation, but all important, let me remind you the passions about to take their seats in the orchestra of patriotism. And one last recommendation, but all important, let me remind the passions about to take their seats in the orchestra entirely on their activity. Not all the training of the best trained nations, nor all the goodwill of poor ballet master Deaf, nay, not the sovereign command of Satan in person, could keep our ballet going if the music of the passions were to stop. The members of the orchestra of patriotism are therefore urgently requested to replenish their energies by unstinting use of the appropriate refreshments, carefully warmed up commonplaces and fairy drams of eloquence, which will be handed round unceasingly by Lord Satan's lackeys of the press and the pulpit. Now we have made all take our appointed places in the theatre of the world. The passions, grasping or trundling their instruments, go up the theatre steps and enter it by a small side door, marked to the orchestra. The dancing nations ascend the same steps but remain standing on the topmost, deployed, waiting for orders. Ballet Master Deaf collects his notes and his baton and is going to follow them when he is stopped by Satan. Good gracious, says Satan. Good gracious, we seem all to have forgotten heroism. He isn't even on the list. Shall we ask the muse to rout him out? He is accustomed to her. Heroism, says Deaf. Heroism? Oh, I always leave him to himself. He comes as soon as he hears the music, and he can always be squeezed in anywhere. That's the advantage of his being blind. It makes him the most obliging and least troublesome of all my orchestra. Quite a different pair of boots from stuck-up creatures like idealism and chivalry and so forth, who are afraid of rubbing shoulders with the lower passions. Heroism, bless him, won't mind sitting cheek by jowl, even with fear, that filthy slut, or surrounded by the cannibal root of sin. But here he comes, the muse writing. At that moment there entered heroism, with limbs like a giant's, blushes like a girl's, and eyes like a merry child's, but which saw not. Satan, welcome, heroism, our prince of tenors, Tenors, goes out to meet heroism and offer to lead him, but heroism waves him off. Satan pretends not to notice the snub with sham cordiality. We were just saying, my accomplished young friend, that you are the most modest and reliable of our orchestra, ready for everything. Why, I remember my French Revolution ballet, when heroism and panic played not only a duet, but at the same instruments full hands. The muse not writing, but joined enthusiastically in the conversation. What a ballet that was! My ballet master Deaf masterpiece, and yours, my Lord Satan, certainly. The splendid tragic irony of the Marais Robespierre guillotine theme, combined with that of Valmy and Liberty. Satan, yes, dear muse of history, yes. I don't deny that was our greatest hit in modern times, but with goodwill, this new dance of our ballet master Deaf shall be as full of all manner of terror and irony, and of far vaster dimensions, the whole stage of Europe, not one paltry corner only. Deaf, affectionately to heroism, Come here, my boy. You have always been so dutiful and loving to poor old Daddy Death, and the god cares more for him than for any other of the immortals. The muse writing. So saying, the skeleton scarecrow tapped the budding cheeks of heroism. That star-like youth with eyes which laughed but saw not, for even as his cousin Love, he is blind ever since the cradle. And heroism, at the sound of Death's well-known voice, kissed his bony fingers with rapture, and grasping the drum with which he accompanies himself modestly took his stand between fear and hatred, unconscious of their foulness. A bell rings. From the inside the theatre, Death takes the arm of heroism, who thrills and blushes with joy at the honor, and turning to Satan. Death, it would be well, my lord, if you would say a few words of encouragement to my corps, the Ballet. Satan nods gravely. I will. He solemnly takes up his position opposite of the deployed dancing nations. He folds his great bodiless wings about him so as to form a dalmatic of black radiance, and stands a second or two in majestic and awful silence. On his right is Death leaning on the arm of heroism, with wide blind eyes. On his left the muse, the ages to come, kneel in a circle all around. Satan, dearly beloved nations, called heretofore brethren in Christ, and henceforth to become true brethren in Satan, receive my blessing, which speeds you to destruction. Let the flight of judgment and of choice be blotted from your minds, and let our clean violations be submerged and rotted away by the hot and turbid lusts of possession and cruelty welling up from the dark unconscious of your soul. Ye are going forth, O nations, to join Death's dance, even as candid, high-hearted virgins who have been decoyed by fair show into the house of prostitution, where sins they never dreamed of become their daily trade, and whence they dread release because they have kept company with perjurers and cutthroats and become estranged from the honesty of common life. For however pure you enter into it, the dance of ballet master Death brings you to contamination and barrenness. Moreover, with your dancing, I will interrupt the great eternal fruitful give and take of life. I will hold up the enriching commerce of different spiritual climates, and the regions of earth shall cease to be each other's complementation. I will forbid the bands of marriage of true minds, and make those born to love one another despise and abhor. Goodness shall cease to call across the earth to goodness, neither shall wisdom stretch helping hands to wisdom, and the sweet affinities of common humanity shall attract no longer, but I will knit together the good which is in every people with its own folly and wickedness, till these grow together as one flesh and one soul, in the fear and hatred which they share. The lucid eye of the spirit shall be bloodshot and blinded. The hand, once cunning to give shape and usefulness, shall, like the hands of the epileptic, be strong only to strike, wounding itself and others. The youth whereby man understood each other's truth and goodness shall foam out only lies and boasts and insults, and the heart shall go out no longer to other hearts, but only melt in self-pity and blaze in vindictiveness. And none of you, O nations, shall know your degradation. The blood of martyrs shall bring forth new executioners, and out of that tears of bereaved women shall arise the slaughter of other sons and other husbands, and every rarest and most needed virtue shall be wasted as a burnt offering upon my altars. The blessings of Satan attend you, who go forth in purity and strength to return in pollution and enfeeblement. Evil be the fruition of your goodness, and chaos the reward of your discipline. Satan raises his hand in benignation. The nations salute with their banners and cry, Arise, O Lord of hosts. End of Act 1.